Hello everyone, welcome back in today's lesson. The topic is British and American English words. So today we are going to look at some American English words and their British English counterparts. Let's take an example before starting. In British English we call it flat, but in American English we call it an apartment. So now, without wasting much time, let's quickly get started. A thin strip of deep fried potato. In British English you call it chips, in American you call it French fries. Here is a soft shoe worn for sports or casual occasions. In British English you call it trainers, in American English you call it sneakers. Courgette, the immature fruit of a vegetable marrow, in particular one of a variety developed for harvesting and eating at an early stage of growth. In British, you call it courgette. In American, you call it zucchini. A knitted garment worn on the upper body, typically with long sleeves, put on over the head. In British English, you call it jumper pullover, and in American English, you call it sweater. A small baked unleavened cake, typically crisp, flat, and sweet. In British English, you call it biscuit. In American, you call it cookie. A baked potato or jacket potato is a potato that has been baked for eating. When well cooked, a baked potato has a fluffy interior and a crisp skin. In British, you call it jacket potato. In American, you call it baked potato. When you have a desire, craving, or need for food, that is when you are hungry. In British English, you call it peckish. In American, you call it hungry. Aubergine, the purple egg-shaped fruit of a tropical old world plant which is eaten as a vegetable. In British you call it aubergine, in American you call it eggplant. A wafer-thin slice of potato, fried or baked until crisp and eaten as a snack. In British you call it crisps, in American you call it potato chips. Subway is an underground railway. In British English you call it underground, in American you call it subway. So, any of various beans eaten in their fibrous pods, especially runner beans or French beans. So, in British you call it runner bean as well as string bean. In American you just call it string bean. 0 is a number and the numerical digit used to represent that number in numerals. In British English we call it 0 or note. In American we call it zero. Chemists, a retail shop where medicine and other articles are sold. So in British English you call it chemists and in American you call it drugstore or pharmacy. Ice cream is a sweetened frozen food typically eaten as a snack or dessert. In British we call it ice lolly, in American we call it popsicle. A flashlight or torch is a portable handheld electric light. In British we call it torch, in American we call it flashlight. A glass screen at the front of a motor vehicle. So in British we call it windscreen, in American we call it windshield. A piece of soft rubber used to rub out something written. So in British English we call it rubber, in American we call it an eraser. It is a very small room or enclosed structure with a public telephone in it. In British you call it phone box, in American you call it phone booth. Noughts and crosses is a paper and pencil game for two players. So in British English we call it noughts and crosses and in American we call it tic-tac-toe. A hinged metal canopy covering the engine of a motor vehicle. In British we call it bonnet, in American we call it hood. Standing or be positioned at intervals along. In British English you call it queue, in American you call it line. A mass of pink or white fluffy sponge sugar wrapped around a stick. So in British English we call it candy floss, in American we call it cotton candy. Petroleum is a fluid consisting of a mixture of refined petroleum hydrocarbons, primarily consisting of octane, commonly used as a motor fuel. So in British English we call it petrol, in American we call it gas. An area of road painted with broad white strips where vehicles must stop if pedestrians wish to cross. So in British English we call it zebra crossing, in American we call it crosswalk. Full stop is a punctuation mark used at the end of a sentence or an abbreviation. So in British English we call it full stop and in American we call it period. Trash can is a dustbin. In British English we call it bin. In American we call it trash can. Any of various forms of team game involving kicking and in some cases also handling a ball. So in British English we call it football. In American we call it soccer. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you soon with a new lesson. Till then, you take care and keep smiling.